installing a 15 by 30 oval pool by myself. And I thought that I'd be able to knock this thing out in 3 to 5 days. And yeah, that's not the case. And I was quickly humbled by this thing as I began to fight battles every step of the way. I swear there was something that came up that just was like, are you serious? And it just started from the very first step the whole way through till now where we're at today. And it's been an absolute fiasco. And yeah, I mean, it's been crazy around here with this thing. My wife is a school teacher and I have two boys. One's 12 and one's 14. And for years now, at least 5 or 6 since we bought this property, my wife's been on me about installing a pool. And because she's off for the summers, obviously, and, give her and the boys something to do during the summer. And, just she wanted a pool. And for years, I've been fighting against that. And I just kept pushing it off and saying no, because I knew that all the weight of the maintenance of the pool and everything that comes with owning a pool would all be on my shoulders, and I didn't need any more responsibility. And so I refused to do it for years. But then this summer, with things changing a little bit around here with my schedule, I ended up caving in, and I told her, fine, we'll do it. We'll skip vacation this year, and instead we'll make the investment into a pool, and that's where we'll spend that money. And that way, we actually, instead of just throwing money out at a vacation, we'll actually, have something to show for it that will add value to our house and whatnot. So I tried to be optimistic and look at the positives of it, and I gave in and said, fine, buy the pool. But I'm telling you, we are not going to buy the pool and have someone else come out and do it, because then it's going to cost twice as much. And so if you want the pool, just know that we are putting it up. And when I said that, I knew that meant that I was putting it up, because although they have helped, here and there through some of the steps that involved more people than just one, for the most part, it was all on my shoulders. And I knew it would be when I said that, but there was no way I was paying someone else to do it on top of the price of the pool. And so I just made sure that, look, if we buy this pool, just know you are going to be helping set it up. And so we bought the pool. The pool shows up, and yeah, ever since, it has just been an absolute nightmare. And if there's one thing I could suggest to anybody out there who's considering to put a pool up, it is, do not put up an oval pool unless you absolutely have to for whatever reason. Or if your, little heart is dead set on it, whatever. But if it's not that big of a deal to you, I would definitely not do an oval pool if you don't have to. If I would have done a round pool, they'd be swimming in it right now. And they would have been 2 weeks ago. But because I went with an oval pool, which was my idea, so it's my own fault, but I thought with the layout and the way that it was going to tie into our deck, that it would be best for, to have an oval pool. But I really wish I would have researched it more before getting into it, because an oval pool is a whole different animal, and it has proven to be just that, let me tell you. And so if you are considering installing a pool and doing it yourself, just put up a regular round pool. I'm telling you, it will save you a lot of headaches and probably gray hair, because it is a major undertaking. There's a lot of other things that go into an oval pool that aren't involved in a round pool, and not to mention, it's just, the nature of the oval pool, and it's much more difficult. The complexity is, I don't know how many times more difficult, but I'm going to say 100 times more difficult. It's unbelievably more difficult in every regard. And so, yeah, I would shy away from that if you can. Anyway, my thought was when we bought the pool that I would also make content around it to show, to try and make a good do-it-yourself video of how to install this oval pool yourself. And, I had all these big plans for this content, making this nice video around it while we did it. And although it started out that way, that quickly the ball got dropped on that pretty quickly when I started to run into issues every step of the way. The recording process just got put like on the back burner. That said, I did still manage to get footage, I think pretty much through every step, with the exception of the last step, which is the most important one, installing the liner. But that's because we were up till 4:30 in the morning that night trying to get that damn liner in, because we ended up running into issues during the day when we were installing, like laying out the wall. And then we had purchased it's like a felt mat that's designed for that size pool that goes over the sand. So I swear I did every step of this process at least 2 to 3 times. For whatever reason, things just like I ended up doing this whole thing like 3 times. And that was no different with the sand. So I get the sand in, I get the sand all tamped and leveled, and then something happened. I don't recall exactly what, but then like when I went to put the wall up, I ended up having to kind of redo the sand and retamp the sand and all that. And then we get the wall up and I have to go inside to lay this felt and to put the cove up, which we had bought this foam cove instead of, you can either do it with the sand, you can make a sand cove, or you can buy the foam cove, which just, goes up against the exterior wall at the ground level so that, it lays on the sand. And all the cove does is provide this nice smooth transition for the liner to lay on so that there isn't a sharp, 90-degree angle there for the liner to get pinched. And so that's the purpose of the cove. And so we elected to just buy the foam cove. I thought it would save us time. So anyway, I had to go back in once the walls were erected. I had to go back in to lay this felt, to put down the cove. And then of course, even though it was tamped and everything was level, with me in there stepping and moving around, it ended up like changing things a little bit. And there was little divots and stuff from my footprints. So I had to deal with that again. And then next was the liner. And then at this point, it's like literally like 2:00 in the morning or something, I think, when we finally got to this point. But we were up against the clock because of weather. And that's been the deal with this the whole time. It's been trying to do it in between the raindrops, because around here for like the last 3 weeks, we've been dealing with a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of rain. And the timing of all these things has to be perfect. Like you are unable to erect the wall if you're not going to get the liner in it right away. And you're not able to get the liner in it right away if you're not able to start to fill it right away. And so it's just been this thing where we're trying to time all this. And it just so happened that the next day when we were doing that part of the process, it was expected to rain and to have a lot of rain. And it was going to be that way for a few days after that. And being that we were already this far out with the pool, it was like, all right, we're going to try and get it in today. And then it'll rain, which is going to help, because we were anticipated to get like 1.5 inches of rain. So my thought was, if we can get this in and we can get the liner set, the pool will naturally get filled to that 1.5 inch, 2 inch mark that you want it, so that you can work all the wrinkles out and stuff. And so that's what we were shooting for. Well, we go to get the liner in. I have it all laid out. I feel like it's centered and everything's right. So we start hanging the liner, and we get the whole way around to the corner where I actually have the service panel for the skimmer and the pump system and all this. And it won't fit. It won't go up on there. It's too tight. And so we had to drop the liner. And as I was dropping the liner, and keep in mind now, we're doing this under lights because it's 2:30, 3:00 in the morning at this point. I start taking down the liner because I was going to try and recenter it and pull some of the slack over to that corner. Well, I'm pulling the liner off. My wife is at the other end of the pool, at the other corner. And as I start pulling the liner off, the liner pops off the wall and it rides the whole way down, jumping off the wall the whole way down. And the wall, because we were hanging the liner, we had the wall unhooked from the posts that were keeping it up. Well, as that liner popped off the wall and began to fall down, so did the wall begin to fall. It started to cave in. Luckily, my wife was at the other end and caught it, because I was facing this way and didn't see it happen. and she was able to catch it when it started to fall, luckily, because I think if it would have actually fallen, it would have kinked the wall like so badly that it would have been ruined. So luckily she caught it. We were able to get it back up and to get it secured, but it like, messed up the sand, and it was just, oh my God. Like, so I'm out there trying to fix the cove, and to start to reinstall this liner, and we get it up, we start doing it again. And when that had happened, the wall had jumped out of the bottom rails, which is the base of the pool. It had jumped out. So we had to try and get the wall back in, which ended up being a battle. I mean, it was tough to try and get it back in there, and it took a while, but we were able to finally get the wall back in there. And then once we did, we went to hang it again, the liner, and I get it around to that corner, and it's still short. And now it's like 4:30 in the morning, and it's starting to rain, and it's like lightning out in the freaking distance. And it's like, are you serious right now? And so I'm panicking because I have, this liner hat like 3/4 of the way installed, and now it's raining and it's going to start to fill, and it's not hung yet. It's not done. And I'm not sure what needs to happen, how it needs shifted to make it work, but like we're done. It's 4:30 in the morning. I cannot go anymore. And now it's starting to pour down rain, and we had to abandon the project. So I had the liner clamped where it had, not been able to get up onto the wall. It was hung on the wall with a clamp, and then on the other opposing side where it was coming around, I had it clamped, and it was just kind of hanging there. So and it wasn't a real big area. We're talking about like 6 feet, and the liner was just kind of leaning in that area where it wasn't on the wall. And so I put a tarp up over that, weighted down into the pool so that the water would run off the tarp and into the liner rather than, behind it and down into the sand. And we just secured everything and got everything cleaned up and got a few hours of sleep. Next day, pop up. I'm all nervous about this whole situation because now there's thunderstorms rolling through, and oh my goodness, just an absolute nightmare every step of the way. In the end, finally, we come out after the storms pass, and luckily everything's still erected, everything's still okay. And now though, the pool is full with like 1.5 inches of water. And so now, as far as trying to move the liner, the bottom of it, it's not an option. And so I had to physically, at this point, there's wrinkles all over the bottom, and this is natural. This is what happens. And so I have to try and work all these wrinkles out, and I'm trying to work them to this corner. But just the way the wrinkles all were, I just ended up ultimately having to push them to the side walls wherever they naturally wanted to go. And then it still didn't buy us enough slack to get the wall, the liner hung on that portion of the wall. So after looking at it and messing around with it a few times, I finally decided that it was the opposing corner from that corner where there was the additional slack. That's where it was at. And I needed to get it over to this corner. And so I'm in there and I pull the slack across the floor of the pool, the liner, the whole way to that end. And finally, it got me enough to where I was able to get the wall hung. It was a little tight in that area, but it was also, I could tell some of it was air that was between the wall and the liner. And so I had run a shop vac into there to try and pull the air out. And the next day, the sun hit it and it looked like it relaxed a lot. And so I thought it was good. And so this was Friday, and we had a company coming to fill the pool. Because the night before, when I got the liner hung, I thought we were good to go. I said, go ahead, get the company lined up to come out and fill the pool. And so they were scheduled to be here Friday, but yet I still had, even though the liner was hung, I still had to put on the top plates and then the top, the rim, the top rim. It's like the trim work of the pool, the top rim, or the top rails, I'm sorry, that run around the whole circumference of the pool. And so I'm trying to get them on as this guy's on his way with, 5,500 gallons of water. And, I'm rushing around trying to get this on. He finally gets here. I'm not quite done yet, but I'm about there, and I'm putting all the top rails on, and I have them loosely on. They're not tight yet, but I have screws in all of them. And I can tell that, like, as I'm laying out these top rails, that it's pulling my pillars out of plumb. And so it's like, something's not right here. I can tell something's not right, but he's here to fill the pool now. And, I was preoccupied with trying to get these wall rim, the top rails onto the pool. And he says, "Do you want me to start filling, or do you want me to wait?" And being that I had the majority of them on, I said, "Nope, just go ahead, start filling it. I'll get this done here quickly, and we'll be good to go." So, and we asked him, "Does everything look okay? Like, because this is what this company does. I mean," and he said, "Yeah, looks good. Looks like you got all the wrinkles out. I think we're good. I think you're going to be all right." Well, I feel like that gave me a little bit of peace, because I was still a little unsure about everything. And I'm hanging these top rails, and he says, "Oh, it looks like your liner's coming off in that corner." Well, I look, and right there in that corner where the service panel was, where it's tight a little bit, I could see where it had kinked in. The liner hadn't actually come off. It had just kinked in, because that service panel is just a really thin piece of sheet metal, and it has a cutout up at the top of it for the skimmer, and it has another cutout for the hose, and or for the piping that goes to the system. And I had a bungee cord in one of the holes of the skimmer cutout, and I had it pulled back to a stake in the ground to keep tension on that, because there's only about this much sheet metal above the cutout to the top of it, and it was very flimsy there. And so I was concerned about that. So I had a bungee down to a stake to keep tension on that. Well, here in the commotion of rushing and all this stuff going on, I hadn't had that bungee attached at the time, and so it kinked in a little bit right there. And so that's what he was seeing. So luckily the liner hadn't come off. It just had kinked in a little bit. So he stopped filling the pool, and we were looking at it, and I said, "Oh, I forgot this bungee. I didn't have this bungee hooked up. I'll pull this back, and it'll tighten this up, and then we'll be good to go." Well, as soon as I went to pull that bungee back to the stake, because at this point he had probably 10, 12 inches of water in there. As soon as I pulled it back, the liner popped off right there in that weak, flimsy part of that sheet metal. And it popped off right there, and I freaked out, and I tried to grab it, but unfortunately I had my wife hold on to it. I went around, got inside the pool, and I tried to get over there to get it back on. And as soon as I lifted it up to try and pop it back on, that liner just went right down the wall and popped off the whole way down the wall. And so now we're done. Now we have, we're like sitting in a foot of water, and the liner's off. There is no way I'm getting that liner back up on that wall with this much water in it. So now the water needs pumped out to try and fix this issue. And I'm at my wit's end. I'm freaking out. The poor guy that was here to put the water in, I'm sure he was uncomfortable, because I was like ready to lose my, I was livid and ready to just destroy this pool at this point. I mean, every part of my being just wanted to demolish this freaking pool at this point. And so I'm done. I'm freaking out. I'm ready to lose it. And I had to cool off for a little bit. I took a little walk, and barefoot tried to get grounded, and just to, and came back to a little calmer, and was looking at it, and it's like, all right, well, we're going to have to pump this out now. And so he left, and now here we are paying for this, and it wasn't cheap. We live way out on a mountain. It's a long drive with this big truck with water, and now he's going back, full of water. And I have this water in my pool that I don't want to just dump onto the ground. So now I'm trying to pump the water out of the pool into every little bit of containment that I have to try and, keep this water so it doesn't get wasted. I get all the containment full, and now I'm out of containment and it's not enough. So now I'm stuck dumping this water, trying to pump this water out just onto the ground. And so I'm just sick at this point. And, ended up, dumping a lot of the water out, losing it onto the ground. And the whole point in all of this, because I live out in the mountain, I have a well, and we'd run our well dry trying to fill this pool from our well. And so we have to have, someone come and fill it. And to dump that water, I had a tough time with it. I mean, but it had to happen. I had to do it so that I could get the wall back up. And, anyway, long story short, we were able to get the wall back up. And the night before, after I had, got the liner hung and thought that we were good to go, before I started putting the top caps on the pillar, and these top caps are designed to go on each of the pillars around the pool. They mount on top of the pillar and they hold the liner and the wall in place. And so I got them all installed that night right before dark. And I thought that when I did this, that I was good to go. I had looked up, we had these, they're called, stabilizer rails. They're called stabilizer rails that had come with the pool, but in the paperwork, it made it sound like they weren't for that style of liner. We got a uni bead liner, and it made it sound like those stabilizer rails were for a different type of liner. And I even looked it up before I started putting those top caps on, because it would have been at that point that they needed installed before I put those on. So I looked it up just to make sure. And when I looked it up, it said, no, you do not use these stabilizer rails with this type of liner. With the uni bead liner, there's no need for them. So I went ahead and put all these top caps on. And then the next morning, I'm putting all the top rails on. And here my wife got to asking, shouldn't these have went on it, before we put the top rails on? And I said, no, I said, it said in the paperwork, it wasn't clear in the paperwork. So I looked it up and it said no. And she said, well, I'm looking it up right now and it says, yeah. So now I'm pissed, because it's like, when I Googled it, it told me no. She's Googling it, it's saying yes. And it's like, so what? All right, which one is it? Well, I really wish I would have just tried one that night, because when I put it on there, it was obvious that these things need to be on there. I mean, the way that the top plates grab on to the wall, you can tell that the notch that's in them is designed to sit on top of that stabilizer rail. And the stabilizer rails, now that they're installed, it's clearly evident that helps keep integrity to the top of the pool, and secure the top of the pool before you secure everything down. And so I was pissed, because it really all came down to that. I think that if we would have had those rails on, none of that would have ever happened, and it would have been fine. So anyway, hard lesson learned. Ended up getting the stabilizers on, and then we started checking measurements everywhere. And I was concerned why the top rails were, because they have screw holes in them. And it seemed like as I was lining them up to the screw holes in the pillars, it was pulling my pillars out of plumb. And so I was concerned about this. So we pulled a few measurements every which way, and I could see where I was out of oval in the one corner where it had popped off. And so I was able to fix that last night, and got things back to where I feel like they're supposed to be. We got the top rails on, or the stabilizer rails on, and now all I have to do is install the top rails, and we're ready to go again. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. It's supposed to rain like all week this week. I'm not sure about even having this company come back out. I'd rather, because it pumps water in so quickly. I mean, he filled up that foot of water, and it's a 10,500 gallon pool. And he pumped that that foot of water into that pool within, I mean, it was minutes. So I think that he could probably fill that pool within 10 to 15 minutes. It's full, or at least, the load that he had would have been emptied into the pool within 10 minutes, I think, easily. And so that puts a lot of pressure on me, to ensure everything's good as he's doing it. And so to me, with every battle that I've had to fight the whole way through this process, I feel more comfortable filling it slowly. And being that it's going to rain all week, we can use that, as well as I'll put water in it each day, from our well. Try not to do too much, but just put some water to it each day from our hose, and then I can pump back in everything that I was able to contain. And hopefully that'll get us close to where I don't have to have them come back out. I don't want to have to do that again. I'd rather just fill it myself. That way I can baby it every step of the way as it's filling to make sure everything's good. I think we're better off with a slow fill process here. So that's what's up. And, ultimately in the end, once it gets like within 2 to 3 inches of the cutouts on that service panel, you have to then you have to cut the liner out and cut in the skimmer. And I don't want to be pressured with him being here and having water. I'd rather just fill it up naturally, make sure everything's good when it gets to that point, and then I can just take my time and make sure that's done properly. And so anyway, long story, but that's where we're at, and that's why you haven't been seeing much from this channel. But once this is done, believe me, I'm ready to get back to my normal schedule. This has me way out of whack. I don't like it, and I'm just ready to put this thing behind me, to be honest. But that said, I mentioned about trying to make a do-it-yourself video for this, and it was going to be this whole thing. I had a GoPro set up, recording the whole process, but then that didn't work out so much. But I was able to record, pretty much the majority of the steps and to get some footage. So I am going to throw together a video, and it's probably going to end up being more of like a lessons learned, the pros and cons, round pull versus oval pull, some type of video like that. That maybe people can get some value out of from my experiences here, because there have been many lessons learned for sure, and so I'm sure there's some value there that someone can get from it. So ultimately we'll try and get something out like that. So if that's something you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the video and comment on it, it really helps with the engagement and to get the videos out to more and more people. And just wanted to update everybody on what's up. It's a small channel, not a lot of people seeing it yet, but for those who do and that look forward to the content, that's what's up. So just a little update. That's all I got for this one. I am Brad Casper. This is Casper's Corner. We will be back to normal here soon. We're out.